Lee, are we not? Okay. So welcome everyone to the Meshery build and release meeting. Today is the 28th of October, and our primary agenda for today is the V0.6 release. We have some outstanding tasks that we were tracking through these through the week, and the main goal for today is to get updates from each of you on the call, and hopefully uh, get a bit more context on where we are with the V0.6 release. So since we are fresh off reviewing the design spec for seed content in Meshery Cloud, we can maybe start with that. So if someone who was on the call could give us an update on the seed content in Meshery Cloud, it would be really good.
So we just had a brief call moments ago, and we talked a bit about some of the enhancements in this spec that we could have to make it more uh, long lasting, and things like Meshery Cloud would the Docker image that Meshery Cloud ships with it would have the seed content in it, and it would get registered as it starts. I mean, not exactly starts, but as the release channel works, it would get the new content in the tables and some other things that we still have to, I mean, draw like the design of exactly how everything would be executed. So we are halfway through the design, but we still have to come up with a design on board with respect to how the flow would work. Yeah, that's it.
So we are not waiting for it to land for the V0.6 release, right?
I don't know, like we can still go without it because I think Meshery Cloud releases work independent of Meshery. So, and Meshery would work with the latest release of the cloud provider, anyways. So, I guess it would be fine if we make a release without that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, if we go forth the feature write-up for what patterns are, filter management, etc., they need to include simple examples of how to take sample content, seed content, and just do it manually. And who knows, by the time that we're done writing up those feature blogs, those docs, maybe the second round of review will be done for the content. It's about as much effort on getting a good design as it is on at least the initial part of the implementation that would provide anyone who signs into Meshery with some content. So it's possible. So the short answer is, let's proceed under the context that it will be a write-up. People will have to manually upload there. But Rudraksh, we should strive for as quickly as sanely possible, as we can sanely get the right design.
Yep, that was my thought process as well. So if we are not adding seed content in Meshery provider, we should document where users can get seed content in Meshery docs. So what exactly should we have? Should we create a guide in Meshery docs which walks through like importing seed content.
Mhm. And then the blog post that kind of we go over it high level, and or if there's enough time, should we write an individual blog post just to go through all that? But either way, it's something of a regurgitation from what you would find in the docs. But yeah, initially it needs to land in the docs.
Cool.
Okay. I was just writing these down so that we don't forget it. All right. So I think
So, Rudraksh, you'll go ahead and schedule a second round of review now? You'll put a meeting on the calendar for sometime in the comfortable future. And that doesn't mean you can't pull it in earlier. If you get there, you do want to send it out for review. I think all of those that were on that review and all of those that will see your diagram, will be able to digest that asynchronously. Yeah. So this is something like right now, we could certainly put this as a topic of discussion in the agenda for next Wednesday, because we should be done. Like our second design review should be done, should be part of the way through implementation, so somewhere in there.
Okay, makes sense.
And so, okay.
all right. So the one other issue with Helm charts in Meshery CTL was it was not respecting the pinned version in mesh config. So this issue has already been raised, and it is not a super urgent fix. We can fix this in a patch after the release as well. But related to Helm charts, one of the one of the things that we need to do was using Helm charts to deploy Meshery operator in Meshery server. So I guess Rudraksh was looking into it and has some issues proceeding with that. Rudraksh, if you could mention that here.
So I guess you're talking about the operator thing. If I'm right, I was lost in the notes that he was writing.
Yep. The deploying operators through Helm charts.
Okay, so from the conversation that I went through in various places, I guess we are making operator as the main chart and the others as subcharts. And I also had a brief back-to-back conversation with Asuka on the same PR, and he was telling that he's moving out. I mean, fixing the Helm charts. So I guess once that's done, we'll need to make some changes in my OpenPR to not install charts individually, and Meshy server would then only we can then skip installing Meshery server, and operator would be installed as it is. So I guess that would be the thing which would lead us into Meshery server installing. Yeah.
So it has, do we know who's doing that? who's moving the operator into the base chart and who's moving the server into the.
Yep. Yep. So I talked to Asuko and he mentioned that he will make a PR by tomorrow. And Utkarsh was also looking into this. And he had mentioned that he will check in with Asuko and see if he has any issues with proceeding. And if he has, Utkarsh mentioned that he can take care of this today. So I don't think Utkarsh is on the call right now, but I was hoping to get an update from him uh, right now. So maybe we can uh, get back to him after this call, or if he joins in. Uh, yep.
Okay. Yep.
So that would be the only change needed here, I guess. Like once we move the Meshery operator to the parent chart, Rudrash can proceed with his PR, and uh, yep, we can go ahead with the uh, release. I guess nothing else is holding up.
And no word back from Darren, huh?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, Utkarsh is here. So Utkarsh, were you able to follow up with Asuko on moving the changing up the Helm charts?
Not yet. Actually, as I mentioned, I was going to wait till midnight, and to get the updates from Asuko. And so, yeah, I haven't yet reached out to him. Yeah.
Does he know that? Have you reached out to him? Did you reach out to him the other day? Or like, does he know that he's supposed to be working on it?
Yeah, actually, he mentioned on a Slack thread that he is going to pick it up and going to wind it off ASAP. So
Cool. Alrighty.
Yep. Yeah, he had mentioned that he can make a PR by tomorrow. So
So I don't. This is confusing to me. This is already done, right? We already did this, but we didn't land it because it needs to be refactored. Right?
Yep, once the Helm charts are refactored. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the buck stops with Utkarsh. If a single doesn't get to it. Cool. All right. Sorry to whoops. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Everybody.
yep. So these were the remaining items for the next release. So I don't think we missed anything here. Like this was the things that we these were the things that we discussed this week, and yep. So what we can do now is maybe uh, put put down names to some of the things we have to do. So uh, if anyone can uh, pick up the uh, documenting using the seed content in Meshery provider, or importing seed content in Meshery provider, we can do that now and try to get it over in a couple of days.
Yeah, it's actually a really good thing to go through because I suspect we might find a bug or two. So there's two ways for each of these pieces of documentation. there might be two names needed, in part, well, just to help make sure everyone's accountable and has a QA buddy, has a docs buddy. But one of those ways is Meshery CTL. The other way is Meshery UI. Right? They would be covered in the same doc, but and there would be 3 docs, right? Like for each content type. So Mr. Singaria, Mr. Singaria, I wonder if, just look how snugly your name fits right in here. It's like it was made just for those square brackets. That's, thank you, Piyush. That would be lovely. Would you mind, Piyush, would you mind, like this isn't about Meshery CTL reference guide. I think we have filters, apps, and patterns covered there. That's good. This is about under functional. It's either a write-up under functionality, like pattern management. If we go there, in here, it talks about like what are patterns, but what it's missing is, oh wait, if you go back up a little bit, okay, to deploy a pattern, execute this command, like good. Now, I think our experience there might have changed a little bit. So there's 2 sections, the UI and the CTL. And so Piyush, do you think you could take that for any of the content?
Like what exactly needs to be done? Can you explain a bit more?
Yeah, so where it says Meshery CTL,
improving the docs is what you're saying?
yeah. Yep, it's just improving the docs.
Okay.
So like on the for patterns, it's like making sure that what it says is accurate and still, and then to maybe explain some other things like, oh, if you wanted to delete it later, you could, or it's a bit more of a guide. You're providing a guide to the person who's using it, like explaining what to expect if you do apply versus import versus whatever.
Okay. Okay, got it.
And if you would, like, if you end up focusing on Meshery CTL in that way, you could then also, we're missing a page, one called WASM filter management, probably. And another one called, yeah. So this is something that Shai Dunn wrote. And did a good job. This just explains the tech. This doesn't explain what Meshery does. But this is good. I mean, it kind of touches up against Meshery, but this is great. We do need, this is just the FAQ. We need the other part of the doc. Okay, patterns, filters, and then Kubernetes applications. So if you go back for a moment, thank you. There's a sample, there's a guide. There's a section called guides, I think. Yeah. And deploying sample applications. Okay. So this is a little bit different. This isn't about application management. I mean, like, there's a different thing, like it's nuanced, but you write these a little bit differently. This really isn't some, I guess this is a guide, not really. A guide is more like a stepped thing. You're saying, hey, let's agree that we're doing a goal. Let's walk through how to do this and explain it as we go. Whereas the functionality section is much more cut and dry. So ideally we would have both guides and functionality for all of these. So root Piyush, we do need an application management page under functionality that has a section on Meshery CTL apps. It'll be a collaborative effort.
Yeah, I'll do the Meshery CTL part. and I expect someone else to do the Meshery UI thing. And yeah, I'm adding this to my to-do list.
Does anybody else want to do the UI?
Yep, I can work with Piyush and get this done.
Nice. I think,
Uh, Lee, by the release announcements, you mean the release blog that we are okay?
yeah. Mhm. Well, anybody feel nervous about the release? There's kind of an aspect that I think keeps on getting swept under the rug a little bit. And it falls right into Abby's lap on the pattern configurator. If we do go out and tell the world, hey, we're doing this thing around patterns, you should come check it out. We either need to have the mesh map beta there so they can really like use, do something with a pattern, or we need the configurator there.
So I'm actually working on the configurator only, giving my prior focus to it, and it will be done by today or tomorrow, hopefully. Fixing some bugs with the slow response time in the React. I don't know, and yeah, getting the new UI done for the configurator. So I would need the better choice for icons. That's the only thing that is required right now.
Yeah, I'm so
So the icons would be from MUI, or we would be using custom icons, because there are very limited number of configurator menus, like what should I say, the accordions, uh, like authorization policy, or so let me recall it.
yeah, sure.
So
icons are needed. So hopefully everyone understands that like the pattern configurator, part of the design calls for having each of the service meshes custom resources available as an icon, as a button to kind of, and so maybe that's not a good design, but it's what's written right now. And as such, what we need is a visual representation of things like an authorization policy, all of the custom resources for each of the service meshes. Some of those custom resources are one and the same, or they're close enough that we would use the same icon. I don't know. We might be hurting ourselves by trying to do that. We might just want to use a drop-down list of names of the customers, something. I don't know. I'm not suggesting that that's what we use, but just calling it into question. Right, but right now, though, under the current design, there's kind of a blocker or dependency on icons needed. Outside of that, what other? How else are we tracking?
so if you ask about the track is like I have made some GitHub checkboxes in the issues. So that was the tracking, the way of tracking for me. But let me open it once again. Yeah, it has certain items that needed to be done, and I'm just going to. Some items has been fixed. And need more. Yeah, that the performance optimization is the only concern, because there is actually more than 700 list of items that comes with Istio adapters, and only when there is only Istio adapter running. So there is chances that when someone will be running more than one adapter, like all the adapters in this case, then their UI gonna be freeze, or it would be like very rough experience for them. So working for that only. Uh, there is a lot of state management being done here, and we may not require all these things, but yeah, a need to handle.
Oh wait,
So
sorry.
that's the only way to handle this thing.
Can you share your screen real quick, or is somebody sharing what that list is?
Okay, just wait. Share my screen.
Yeah, you got, and yeah.
So not confident which screen is shared.
It is.
Is it VS Code?
Mm-hmm. Is it VS Code? It's GitHub pattern issue.
Okay. Sorry. Desktop. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So if I show you the current okay, I was just doing the thing, like developing it, and it failed. Right. Okay, that is previous UI. So I couldn't show it right now because there is a lot of issues right here in the import statements. So we'll be fixing it in like another 5-10 minutes. So we'll be resharing my screen. That's fine.
Okay, yep, sure.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Take your time. Actually, maybe take your time, and when you have that final, well, when you have a screen, if you do just a quick recording, like that would be really helpful. And if you have a link to that issue, when it has accurate checkboxes, I mean, maybe they're accurate right now, but whenever it does, pop over the link as well. That'll just give some indication as to where we're at. Some of what you're working on is, well, it'll be iterated on. Or what I mean to say is, it has to be functional, not necessarily perfect.
Okay. I will be marking it as ready for review, and will be adding this link to the Slack also after the work has been done, and making a short video explaining what the other things and how things are working.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Hey, so I tossed in. So we tossed in another question about service mesh patterns GitHub action that uses Meshery CTL. So there was a new repo opened, very recently. A PR opened up. Maybe we'll just put a link to that repo in the meeting minutes. And I think it might be a little too early to talk about progress. It's probably healthy to just regurgitate the goal is to allow people to pipeline or automate use of Meshery CTL, and then all of its subcommands. You're going to apply a pattern, which then, like, there's a lot within there that might mean that Meshery is connecting to Kubernetes system, deploying a service mesh, running a performance test, like potentially any number of things that might be applied. Potentially importing a pattern. Someone may offer a URL that they want to import temporarily. someone may say, look, we have a pattern that we use all the time, and we also have our own application that we use all the time. So I want to they might want to deploy applications. If the pattern itself incorporates an application that's sort of one and the same, we really have to get a diagram, an architectural diagram that kind of shows how different content types are related, and the fact that any given pattern might, like the way that we've been using the word pattern, that it might incorporate any other types of constructs. The interesting thing is in MeshMap, we're talking about MeshMap, a given design incorporating all, patterns and applications and filters and all of these things. Outside of MeshMap though, when you're just using Meshery UI, that experience is still the same. There's only patterns. And so I think that term gets conflated and confusing because we don't have the concept of a separate template or a pattern that is a template. It's uneditable versus an instance of a pattern that you've created that is no longer called a pattern because the word template and pattern are synonymous. Rather, you've been presented a list of templates, a list of patterns, and you want to create an instance of those. It's like a Docker image, an instance of that image, a Docker container running. And so if we have two terms to help us clarify that there's a pattern template, and something else. Think about that. Yeah. Good. Adina, I want to say yes. Just I'm not sure that that's. Yeah. Yeah. We do want to have a catalog of patterns publicly available. People can use Meshery CTL to import them. They can then use Meshery CTL to apply them. And they can kind of do that in the same motion, or they can do it in two different motions. Yeah. And that's probably the core goal of the GitHub action. Fortunately, we have two other GitHub actions that already wrap Meshery CTL. I've already had to deal with like tokens and other Meshery CTL specific stuff. So it's helpful. But we do have some definition of terms that'll help on patterns. Also on mesh ops, we're trying to help define those terms. If anyone saw the latest message in the Meshery adapters channel, there was a definition of mesh ops v1, mesh ops v2. So good. At least for me, I think I'm walking away from the meeting feeling pretty good about where we're at with our most critical item, which is refactoring of the Helm charts. I feel pretty good. That actually adds a little pressure to the writing of the release blogs, writing a bit of documentation around content. It gives Avi a little more time to kind of wrap up and then solicit feedback for the pattern interface.
So I have the pattern interface ready for now. So can I share the screen just with? Okay. Hope it's Firefox now. So, right?
It's yep.
Yeah. So so as discussed in the Figma design. So there is this where we can select adapters. So it will only show the list of available adapters you can choose from. So for now, only Istio is running. So yeah, only Istio is there. Okay. So sorry to this once again. Yeah, it just doesn't work in the first go. So giving it a context. So yeah, this is how it will look. So here there will be a toolbar and there will be list of options here. So that will contain all the options. For example, here are applications and Kubernetes services. Then there will be two icons here, which is one for application and one for Kubernetes service. And yeah, so thinking upon the colors, and then like, will the icons be colorful as we have in the mesh map latest design spec? And yeah, so these are the things. And do we need any changes in the way uh this RGSF form is rendered?
So Abhishek, just one thing that I noticed, which I have to mention right now is, so the name of the service on line 3 is UUID, and that's fine because we recently made some changes and that's feasible now. But we also have to ensure that there is a new field either below line 4 or below line 5. It has to be a sibling to these fields, type, namespace, and settings, and it should be the field called name, which will be the actual name for that particular thing. The reason that is required is, yeah, basically that is sort of required because it could happen that an authorization policy doesn't accept a name with hyphens in them. And so yeah, the point is that earlier it was like on line 19 we have something called application, and that's completely fine, that would work just fine. And if you would see your cluster, you would have an entity called application, that's fine. But on line 3, because it's a UUID and it's probably auto generated, so for if the user wants to customize the name, what they will have to do is have to add a new field below type or below namespace called name, in which they can actually type in a custom name of that particular thing, and that name would be reflected in the cluster. This was a new thing that was added to patterns. So yeah, that was just something I had to point out because
Okay, so it should be sibling to type and namespace, or right, type, or the name should be different like this, a key.
so name field could be anything. By anything, I mean something that the user probably entered. So they are creating an authorization policy for SDO. It could be admin only policy or something. A name that they actually want to be represented inside the cluster. Because what will happen right now, this would be a valid pattern. This is a valid pattern. But what would happen is that an authorization policy would be created with this name, that is FDB 86648, and yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, I'll look into it. Thanks.
And Abhi, I gave just a couple of comments in the chat that I'm hoping will make it easier to
Okay.
land. So because Kubernetes is something of a universal consideration for us, it can live outside of the mesh selector. And then let's do ourselves a favor and at least initially avoid trying to figure out icons for all the custom resources and just use some standard, selector. Like having, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Is everybody feeling okay? Everybody feeling comfortable? Or any question? I know there's a lot on some of your plates. So outside of that stress, are you feeling comfortable with what you need to do going forward?
Oh, one more thing that maybe like fits in here is some of the work going on around service mesh performance, like performance benchmark test. So I have been looking into customizing the SMP action to run some benchmark tests on GitHub runners. So yeah, that is that is not exactly related to this Meshery release, but something we should get out soon.
Yeah, but this is the meeting that we talked about GitHub. We talk about GitHub actions, and so do we need specialized runners, or can we just use the runners that they provide us to start with?
Yep, we can use the runners they provide us, like unless like we there are some like if you define some a set of considerations for running the benchmark test, then it becomes a consideration. But
We
like
will,
yeah, as far
but
as I as far as I discussed with some of the other maintainers, SMP maintainers, like we can start with GitHub runners.
wait, I mean, not doing it. There shouldn't be any more work. I guess, so just start. That's what I'm saying. Just schedule some tests and go. And then whatever runner they give us, just document what that is. And that's the test. Like, so yeah, please don't do any more engineering in that way. Up until the point that like, once we get the test results back, and then eventually we say, well, geez, if it only had four cores, then we could really test it. And then we'll deal with custom runners or whatever.
Yep, we'll do that.
Right now, it's hard enough to get seasoned professionals who get paid lots of money to be engineers that to even identify like what an appropriate test environment is. Like, because do you know why? Because the answer is whatever the user is using, which is whatever that is, which is whatever the most popular EC2 instance in the world is. Like that would be the one that has the strongest signal. So it's like the answer is they all are valid, all of them. They're all valid. Some are much, much more meaningful to people than others, but they're all valid. Is it valid to run it on your Docker desktop? Yes. That doesn't represent prod at all. But if that's what developers are using to try to figure out what is going to be performant in prod, and having benchmarks on that is helpful. So I have to bite my tongue because I want to make the point like 2 more times, but I won't. Cool. That's great. That's perfect. Yeah, please. I'd love to see the 5,000 tests jump by a few, by 10 every day. Yeah. That'll give us really something to talk about in the SMP meeting as well.
All right. Anything else we missed, or does every item on this list have people assigned? Yep.
Who was someone going to say something?
No, I don't think so.
Yes is the answer to your question. That's a great question too. Cool. Hey, it's been nice to hang out with a lot of you today, all day long. We had a lot of meetings today. We did some great stuff. What a great presentation from Jacob. Obviously, clearly some interest from a variety of parties. Cisco was on the call, Intel was on the call, Red Hat was on the call, multiple people from Intel. Google was on the call. Adina was on the call. So then you know, right? But really interesting stuff. I thought that the presentation crystallized the plugin architecture and hopefully unlocks in some people's, in the rest of our minds, you know, where we would go write some code and what that code could potentially include. It does, the interest around that project does call, it was, I thought, heartwarming to hear Jacob refer to, like, when Anirban, who's like, I think, you know, of this community, or he's only involved in this because he's in this community, when he was asking where to go where to go get help, that Jacob had said, had included Layer 5 as a place to come to do that. And that's nice. But I guess I'm highlighting the fact that we still haven't landed getnighthawk.dev. And so I've hinted at this with a number of you, but that I think ideally the site itself is called Get Nighthawk, but the logo, we need to take the get out of it and just say this green bird looking structure is Nighthawk. That we're not talking about something separate. We're talking about Nighthawk. And so I think after we clear up the site, remove the get. As a matter of fact, I think we just removed the get and just didn't even confer with Jacob and Otto and what's the other guy, Harry. If we didn't even confer with them, that they would just accept it. Like I said, I think in their minds they already have. They voted on the design. They voted on the, you know, they have access rights to this repo and stuff. So yeah. So as we go to build that, as we get the build notes and other issues and stuff, like let's fill it, like point Anirban here, let's fill it in. And I know we've done some of that. So he's not old. Hump day was yesterday, so he should be. No, not a Wednesday hump day thing. That's not happening. Trying to figure out. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, Raksha was smiling. Okay, that's good. All right. Very nice to talk to you all. See you later, Navendu. See you, Adina.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you. See you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.